Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, live show number 328. I am your host, Lauren Gray. In keeping with our theme as now, one topic, 1 hour maximum of time. Our topic today is one that's come through via emails, a combination of several questions that came from the podcast series that I've been doing, uh, always have been doing 17 years. But in recent conversations in our audio podcast, be able to be found on iTunes and all the other 39 other channels that we're on, is about business intelligence and RPAs. So, our topic today is about BIs and RPA, how machines running machines for you can help. For those not familiar with the acronyms for this, BI is business intelligence, and then RPAs are robotic process automations or automation. Um, there is a whole spectrum of variations of things that are related to these two topics. One that neither one addresses, and that is simply analytics and reporting, aggregation of data, uh, so that you can look at data in some sort of user friendly format. It's just not rows and bars and columns and what have you, but actually colors and red bad, green good, arrow up good, arrow down bad, or speedometer guides or whatever have you. Those are reports. They're not necessarily business intelligence. The visualization can be used by business intelligence, but they're actually just giving you data in a more digestible format. So let's break down some things in relationship to all of these and why it is so important for us to have these tools at our disposal or to be used actually at this time given circumstances. As we have discussed on the live show many times, human resources and having enough labor in our organizations is a critical mass issue for us right now as an industry. We're not alone, but we are probably one of the largest hit when it comes to the lack of people in our industry working. We're below minimum thresholds on many levels. So, for that reason, the people that are with us are asked to do multiplicities beyond their original job description. And for that reason, they don't have the luxury of the time that they once had to do the work that they were obligated to do or needing to do to have better informed decision processes. We have reveled in recent years with terms like big data. We've used that as a buzzword for years. Um, and it was about how do you take all this data that we are getting, if it's even being gathered by you all. We'll make the assumption that there is various amounts of data that's being gathered for you within your organization. How do you take all that data, put it into a format that's understandable so that you can make good business decisions? What we just described in that process is really about reporting. It's simply taking the data from the sources you have available and putting it in a format that you can view so that you can assume or create some assumptions based on the data that's coming from. Traditional points of this are like your STAR reports, Smith Travel Research reports, um, where they aggregated based on what you defined as your comp set and its reporting process anonymously for everyone, how you related to your internal market. Um, Other reporting platforms that are very helpful in that same vein are things like OTA Insight, Spider, AirDNA. Now, if you're not familiar with these platforms, let's quickly go through a few of these. OTA Insight is a wickedly great tool. It used to be originally when I first got it, started using it, it was really just a rate parity or rate out of parity reporter. It would search all these platforms, OTA platforms, to see if your inventory was being offered on other platforms differently than you were offering it on your own website, so that you could go find out, one, to stop that leak if it's the case, and two, adjust your rates accordingly in case you were out of parity of what you were offering on other platforms. It is expanded to have a variety of additional points of data, comp sets, variable comp sets, trends, event listings. It really gives a neat insight as to more and more data, very similar esque to other marketing reports. Now, Spider is another platform that is very good in my mind in the sense of visualization because it also includes the segments associated with hospitality nicely of group sales versus your transient sales. It shows pace and pickup and nice creative UI user interface for those that have UI as an acronym ways. And so you can see a little bit more of how you are related to your market visually than just the static reporting of RevPAR, which is most often associated with STAR. AirDNA is really a useful tool. It was built for those that were having an AirDNA property and how they compare to others in their market and what they should begin to charge for their product that they're putting into the market and what are the general informations associated with their market. We use it as a tool of discovery, of looking at what is the Airbnb or the Airbnb market, VRBO, and the rest of the vacation rental market doing in our market when it comes to rates and rules and length of stays and a lot of other very helpful information rather than just the geography of where they're individually located, but actually how they're affecting the demand in our market, knowing that it is elastic inventory. As the demand grows, so too is the inventory availability, which is in a strange way the bane of any revenue management strategist, where you have unconstrained demand calculations and you're wondering, well, if we could have all the inventory we needed, how much inventory would that would be? And you were relieved in the point that you had a fixed inventory so you could yield your rate against the demand versus the actual physical inventory. Well, Airbnb, as we all know, and VRBO and all the rest of them, with that elasticity of demand, that isn't a leverageable tool as much as it used to be for us, because as the demand grew in our inventory, more inventory became available in other places. So we couldn't just begin optimizing our rate because we knew we had a restricted amount of inventory. So AirDNA, very cool with that. Smith Travel Reports, no need for explanations. If anybody is anything in the hospitality industry within the guides of revenue management and or yield, or ownership or executive level, STAR reports are bread and butter conversations on a weekly basis, minimum, monthly basis for certain, and if not, a random basis based on when the report gets pumped and whether or not you're being called in by ownership or management as to your condition and relationship to your comp set. But these are all reporting tools for that type of information. There are other reporting tools that are related to the types of information they gather. There is the ability to gather your Google Analytics information from if you have a standalone website. If you don't have this and you rely upon your brand relationship to give you information about traffic to your part of the little world of the metaverse, of the mothership, when it comes to brand like Marriott, Hilton, and what have you, because you're in their main website as a product, a symbol product of one of the properties that they're being located within it, and they share with you the data that they have in general about your traffic performances. Those can be helpful in indications as to your demand or your interest, or whether your packages are going well, or people are looking for aspects of your hotel like pet friendliness and or food amenities or what have you. So there are data sources associated with the metrics of traffic. Then there's other metrics that are associated with advertising. Your insights report from Facebook, which tells you how your Facebook ad campaigns or organics are running. That goes for all social media platforms. Any paid platform that you're using for marketing has, in some measurability, a reporting of data associated with the results of spending money with them and the traffic and the possible business that's generated from them. Then you have meta search and you have reporting processes with that, what platforms you use for that. If it's a Cody or a Derby software or Whip or a Disco, what are they reporting as the methodology of traffic that you're getting from those and the revenue potential from those. So you see that there's many reporting processes that are in, but that's like the first level. Now, keeping in mind that everybody throws around the acronym of AI, artificial intelligence, and that is kind of the apex of machine learning. Machine learning is literally logic string, if then conditional statements. If anybody's comfortable with Excel, they know that that is a conditional statement you can put into an Excel sheet. Excel sheets and Google Sheets are wonderful tools for taking chunks of data and creating pivot tables, correlations, filters to say, what is this telling me? What's the high? What's the low? What's the average mean? What is this in comparison to this? Excel sheets do a great job of that. They're not very visual, even though they do have graphics capability to say, take this data and put it into a pie chart or put it into a bar chart or something. And they've certainly improved over the years that we've been using them. The real reality is that they're very limited in the sense of whatever you decided to do, it'll show you what you based on the decision. It doesn't show you data that has been predetermined to be a value point. You have to create the scenario for it to give you the information. And if you give it bad data, you're going to get bad data results. Excuse me while I drink some coffee. So, with that in mind, machine learning is logic. It begins to advance into advanced machine learning, so forth, and eventually it gets to the apex of artificial intelligence. The true definition of artificial intelligence, to be broad, is where the machine self learns. As it does more and more calculations, it learns better how to do those calculations. It learns from its mistakes. Very humanistic in that sense as we go through that. Oh, if I touch the stove and it's hot and it hurts, don't touch the stove again because it might be hot. That learning process is artificial intelligence, the adaptive use of data to come up with alternate results. So the use of a lot of companies say, "Oh, we have AI." It's probably really good machine learning, advanced machine learning, but it's not really necessarily AI. The only real AIs in the world are controlled by Google for its search by algorithmic programs, and even then, that has a controllable source to it. Its uncontrolled source has many stories attached to it, as well as Watson for Microsoft and so forth. Those are true AI tools. Those are ones that self learn. So these programs that say we have AI, no, they're piggybacking on the concept of what AI means, but not necessarily the functionality of it per se. At least not in its full components. It might have some self-learning or recorrective processes to that. So with that, we go into another world of business intelligence. Now, you may have thought we've already discussed that by talking about OTA Insight and Spider and AirDNA and Star Reports and so forth, but that's not business intelligence. That is still reporting reports, data collection reports. Now, as we said earlier on, the reason why all the BI and RPAs, which we're going to talk about as well, are important now is from a human resources point of view, we do not have anytime eminently soon the resources, the cavalry, so to speak, coming over the hill to save the day so that our revenue management and marketing strategists and our executive level team can sit down and spend the full measure of time that they need to gather this data, review the data, analyze its value, because reports are reports. That's all it is. Reports turn into analytics when you're actually trying to use and interpret the data. Take these reports, create analytics with it to come up with better business decisions. What rates should we be offering? How much inventory should we have? What should we do about our marketing campaigns when this happens? What should we do about our future tense marketing? These types of things require data for us to make those decisions. We don't have as much time anymore. Our revenue management marketing strategists might be pulling front desk shifts and or they're doing other things to compensate for the fact that there's not somebody else sitting in another chair. So for this reason, business intelligence tools and RPA tools have come into a new world of value. Now, up until just this past year, business intelligence tools and RPA tools were very expensive in comparison to where they are now. I'm not saying they may have been expensive back then, or even the advanced tools still for hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, having these types of tools for a large company, that's not a big expense to have. But a smaller place that's trying to find ways to adapt how it's running, those tools are pretty much out of reach, and that's a big financial decision because usually they're attached to a length of contract and what have you. So you're making a multi-thousand-dollar decision for a hopeful use of a tool. No matter how much bells and whistles and ooh and ah it is, it's still a multi-thousand-dollar decision financially. And that's hard at a time where businesses are trying to rebuild from the losses they've had over the past year and a half, and the concern of how the market's going to be volatility wise in the future. Those are sometimes out of reach decisions financially. So cheaper, more affordable alternatives have now come into the market. As we've said many times, this past year and a half year, our technology has leaped and bound ahead of itself on some things that would have taken many years for it to develop to the level it is now. But due to demand interest, a lot of companies have tackled the idea of, well, this is a good time to build that tool because we probably could sell that tool. And that's what's happened in the BI and RPA environment. Business intelligence tools are tools that take the data that's been brought in and you assign the data sources from this. And it then puts it together in a way that answers, or should say not even answer, that's the next step. It presents data that is useful in a useful way. It takes your traffic from your distribution, your results from your ad campaigns, your internal business numbers, occupancies and revenues and geographic sources they came from and CRM data and everything. And it brings it together in such a way that it can say, oh, look, um, people from this geographic location spent on average this much money and spent this much time with you. It is recommended based on these ad campaigns that you should spend more money on them for this, offering these types of rates. That's a business intelligence result that is taking the data. And that means that for a user, they didn't have to go in and gather all that data from reports, put it together side by side, despairingly, where one software platform doesn't talk to another software platform that doesn't talk to another software platform. So you got to look at it and extract it and maybe cut and piece this and put that over there and then make your own formula to make the comparisons and all this other stuff. The software, the business intelligence software, did that. Now, there are some really cool BI intelligence tools out there that are affordable. We're going to talk about three in general. Guyana, Gyana.com Adriel, ADRIEL.com, and OWOX, OWOX.com. Now, they're literally in the progression of how geeky are you? Because Ghana is pretty easy in the sense that it interfaces with a tremendous amount of platforms, so does Adriel. But it's pretty much a plug and play. Connect my Google Analytics account, connect my Facebook account, connect these certain things. And then it has what's called API interfaces, which are the ability to say, if you put this data in this particular format on this particular platform, like Google Sheets, then I can take that data based on what you say it is and use it against all this other data that I'm pulling from other places. That's a very powerful tool. There are two really cool tools that do this. One is Zapier, Zapier.com, and the other is ifttt.com, if then that. They've both been around for a long time. They create connections between software programs that don't necessarily talk to each other by identifying data sources in each one and then making sure the other source knows what that identifier is so they can share the data. That's one of the ways that business intelligence tools work, is that they connect and communicate with all these different platforms: your CRM platform, your PMS platform, your POS platform, your analytics platform, your GTM platform for your website, your Facebook Insights platform, your Pinterest account advertising, your Twitter, whatever it is. It pulls it together and can create these comparative analyses to give you decision making data results. What makes this very cool is machines do this without the labor cost once it's set up. Once you've built this, and some of these are no small easy tasks. So please understand, this isn't just a magic silver bullet that says, "Oh, we buy that, plug it in, and it goes off and finds all this, puts together." This is you saying, "Go connect to this. Here's my login credentials to do that. Go connect to this, make that, and I want to use this connection to this." You create what it is you need, but once you've done it, it will continue to give you that data information in the result format that you need to make the decisions from it you need. So consider business intelligence tools as a shortcut to the analytical data collection function that you're currently doing, so that you have a better methodology of understanding the decisions that you're being asked to do for the data most relevant to it. And that's where the business intelligence, BI, comes in. So literally, that's a machine talking to another machine to get the information it needs to give you the data in a way, in a format, with a results driven answer to a question you didn't know you were asking, or a question that you perpetually ask. And so you can say, wow, we should raise our rates because we are at now trending below in comparison to this. And we have plenty of space to advertise on this channel for the value that it's going to represent. And we can understand that this current conversion rate at this current spend, we should be able to make this much money from doing that. That's business intelligence. So what is RPA? RPA is robotic process automation. Now, business intelligence tools rely very heavily on the ability of the program to communicate between programs, and that's usually done by API, Advanced Program, and there's an acronym value that I just muddled up, but it is a machine conversation. Uh, Picture program A has certain data fields, the information data, and it's identified internally in its software a certain way. This is the date of arrival. This is the date of departure. In another program, it might be uh, conversion date, closing date. It might be referred to differently. So what happens is these programs like FTT and Zapier say, "What do you call it?" They look at, but the program has to allow Zapier to do that. It has to say, "I'm allowing this type of platform to understand my codex of what I label my data fields as." It has to allow it. And then the other software that you're going to try to connect the data communication to also has to allow it. Well, not all programs allow it. Most of the programs we're talking about in many ways do, but as we know from our hospitality technology silos, we're a very incestuous, internally controlled lot when it comes to technology. And a lot of our hospitality centric softwares are very territorial. They don't allow communications. How many times have you gone to your proper PMS or POS provider and said, "Hey, I want this program to do this with your program"? No, no, we don't. Or you have to pay $30,000 for us to flip the switch to do it, when it just literally takes 5 seconds to flip a switch, so to speak. Yet they're going to charge you the money, blood money is what I call it, to have that access to their type of platform for it. So it's a matter of permission-based communication is truly what APIs are, and that's permission-based communication that IFTT and Zapier rely upon as well. So, oh, hey guys, sorry, I didn't even notice I'm over here talking to one screen. I have noticed everyone saying hi on the other screen. Hello, everyone, and thank you. Okay. Anyways, so back to this RPA, robotic process automation, was a very expensive proposition for many years. To do this automation process either was too simplistic and easily broken, which was what I'm bringing in mind as I say that is things like Automator with Apple. It was a fun little program that you could automate your mechanical functions that you did, but it had a limit as to how many steps it could do. And if anything was different, if the website when you asked it to click on a thing to do it was different than where it was before, it would error out. So it was very temperamental, constantly breaking. You spent almost as much time keeping it running as you did if you just did the function yourself. That has long since gone. There are now RPAs that are incredibly robust and very affordable. And this falls into the realms of what we talked about before, where um, the functionality, repetitive functionality of this is the value proposition to your resource of time. Um, Picture your night auditor, if it were. The night auditor is about as routine based of a position in your hotel as anyone. Just like an opener to your restaurant is. There are things that you have to do step one to step two to step three to step four progressively, because whatever you did in step one has to be done before step two happens, because of something, this data has to be pulled before you close it, before you open this. Anybody that's done that auditing knows what I'm talking about. Anybody that's opened up a restaurant knows, hey, you don't turn on the gas and then do something else before you turn on the lighter. Let's put it that way. If you're going to kick with the fryers, you make sure that you do that step one and two. Okay, gas on, fire up. By the same token, you don't do it at 6 o'clock in the morning when the 10 o'clock in the morning opening, because you're burning gas for 4 hours that you don't need. You know that it takes X amount of time for your fryers to get to temp for what you want to use them, or maybe you're not even going to use fryers because it's not in your menu options in the first thing in the morning. So you don't even do that. Maybe they don't even get kicked out until the afternoon. But you see what I mean? This process, this methodology, this step-by-step things is what we exist in many ways. So with that in mind, picture platforms that handle that progressive what you do on your keyboard function in an automated way. It's like a screen recorder in lots of ways. Say, for instance, as you go in and say, I need to pull the report from my brand X account. I need to pull that report out. That will give me my arrivals list. But I want to take the arrivals list and I want to put it over to my historical guest list and see who is returning guests. I'm not making this up. And from that, I want to then go over and see what's the geography of these people as to where they're coming from. Then I want to compare that to my marketing campaigns for those areas to see if this was a source of business or my conversions, whatever it is. You create this methodology. Well, you can do that on the computer. You log into your brand account and you pull the data, and then you save it into a certain file, and then you go to another platform and you save other data in a certain file, and then you put the two data pieces together, and then you do a pivot table as to showing the geographies, and you could do all that. Or you can have an RPA do that exact same thing, where, okay, do that process but record the functions in the process of the RPA. Say, okay, this is where you're going to go, and then go into this vault and pull my user key out so we can go and log into that account, and then I want you to do this with it and this one. And you literally program the RPA step by step to duplicate what you just did normally yourself by hand. Once that's done, the machine will do it as many times as you ask it. You can schedule it, you can trigger it, and this opens up a world of things like, if this happens and we get to this point and this is going this way with this monies or this and this, I want you to turn this program on and run this sequence of stuff, because maybe there's a budget limit cap. And when it hits a certain level of you've spent this much, I want you to automatically log in and shut off our ad campaigns, pause it, so we don't overspend, because that's our ceiling, and we don't want to go over that ceiling. That's a simple example of using it. It might be, oh, when it gets to this ROI, add more money because we're doing great, and that's our threshold to expand the campaigns by X amount of dollars. And I want you to go in, log in, add the money, go here, put this in. You can automate these functions so that you don't have to. So picture a night auditor program for what they end up doing, knocking it down to a tenth of their time. So now instead of 6.5 hours of must do work step by step, and it can't take any less time because it takes 6.5 hours to do it. Now picture that all that was done in an hour and a half. Well, now you have 5 hours of their time for other things. Maybe you want them to walk the property more. Maybe you want them to do other things more, because they don't need the time constraint to actually go through these processes. Picture in the morning, your sales marketing routine person. They need to pull up certain reports. They need to look at certain numbers. They need to look at projections. They need to look at whatever it is, automating those report generations that they normally had to log in, pull out, download, share, whatever have you. You can create RPAs to actually do that for you and do it beyond that. Where then once you've done that, put it into a programmable like a data studio or something that you can control a Tableau and actually have it do more advanced analytics to say, okay, based on the information you gave us, here's some trends. And you actually begin to blend it into the BI component of what pointed answers can it give us on the data that I used to just look at to make sure I was aware of. Now, how can I advance that? And then you start thinking about reports that you've never done. Like, how can I aggregate a period of time and show trend analysis? How can I go over and aggregate data that I don't normally do because I don't have the time to do it or used to be able to do it, but I don't now? And how can I see what that data represents in a macro way to say, my gosh, we need to change direction, or this is a great direction. We're not fully maximizing this opportunity because we haven't gotten the time to take the time to look at this type of data. That's what makes BI and RPA so exciting, is because it begins to give us back the most precious resource that any of us have, and that is time. By doing these things that occupy our time for the mundane process, a lot of these things can automate and accelerate the doings so that you don't have to waste that kind of time to get the kind of result that you need. You get the result. And then you can begin to think of crazy things to do with the result, which is, if we took that data and what if we did it, took it and made it go farther ahead and did other things with it. Now all of a sudden you're getting advanced data, more business intelligence, analytics, and perspective, and you're making smarter, better decisions because you have full data. It also intrinsically shares and slows down other communications where you're stuck having to always explain and educate your team members about what's going on because it's not in front of them every day. Now you have the ability to validate your opinions and validate your decisions with the data supporting it to say, based on this, here's all. So if somebody says, well, why are we doing that? What do you have to prove that? Boom, here it is. Here's all the data that was accumulated to do this thing that gave us this information, that gave us this result, which we're basing this decision on. That's powerful, powerful tools. So you're saving time in the process. You're saving time in the decision process. You're accelerating quality decisions for business. And that's where the tools help the most with it, between the BI and the RPA programming. They're pretty cool in that sense. So some of the RPA programs that I'm speaking about that are very affordable. One is robomotion.io. The other is captaindata.co. They have different functionalities. Captain Data is more about your marketing data aggregation. Now, keeping in mind, I did mention Google Data Studio, which is a free platform that Google uses. It does connect to other platforms outside of itself, but most normally it's used to aggregate data from its own platform of Google. When I was mentioning the business intelligence tool of OWAX, that goes into a whole nother fully geeky world, deep world of big data, uh, data query with Google, which is this massive. You can use, by the way, artificial intelligence from Google with their big the data theory platform, where you can actually hire Watson. You can go spend Watson per month and have it look at data. Some very good tools for crunching large chunks of data for a variety of correlated reasons. Tableau is a great one. But again, they're more towards the interpretive process. Their results are based on the question you ask. It's not so much, you have to define your logic workflow to understand, are you trying to give yourself a specific answer or a specific query? And what I mean by that is, are you making the data bring a question to you, like, do you want to do this, or is this better, or is this valuable, confidence factor, or are you just simply wanting to have the BI or the data reporting create this is what we found based on what you put together? A lot of it has to go with the logic of the decision processes that you need. Are you looking for an answer, or you're looking for direction? And that builds the different workflows, different structures, by how those things are put together for all of that. So Captain Data is more related to marketing data. RoboMotion's full-on automation for anything else, and including marketing. You can The cool part about either platform is that you can set up more RoboMotion in my mind as I discuss this, with the ability to say, I want it to do this, and then I want to take this data to make it do that. And then when it's done with that, I want to take that resulting data and do this. And I want all this triggered when this action happens, when this threshold gets hit, or this number gets hit, I want all this other stuff to happen. And you create multiples of those. And what you've done is sometimes you've created alerts where it says, boom, you're missing a huge opportunity in Cincinnati for people with demographics of this, for the net price resistance of this, for a length of stay with this, for the dates of interest of this. That's when BI gets really crazy, spooky, cool by using RPAs in combination with BIs. So, with that, that is our full topic discussion about BI and RPAs and reporting for that matter. I mean, really, there's three tiers to this. You have reporting and the analytics that come from that. You have business intelligence, which is the interpretation of the analytics for business intelligent decision results, and the RPAs in the functional process of deriving data and creating streamlined functionalities associated with the getting this data into usable function for business decisions. And again, all this is inspired from the fact that from a human resource point of view, our industry has relied on antiquated human resource engagement. We rely on the here's my job posted, this is what I want, blah, blah, blah. We've talked about this on the live show many times. And we're not out engaging and selling our culture, selling our opportunities to people for them to realize that it's just not what we want, but what it is that they want and what it is that we have to offer and give them by participating with us and soliciting people to join us as a part of our culture and our team and have a rewarding, fulfilling experience, which is what most people have learned in this forced pause that the pandemic has given us all in this past year and a half of evaluating what is our path in life. And a lot of people are going, wow, I was doing this because this is all I could do. But now that I've had a chance to think about it, this is not what I like doing. It's not enjoyable. I don't, I'm not working for a place I like enjoyable, or I was loyal to a company that wasn't loyal to me. We have so many scenarios that have played out in the past year and a half. And of course, the loss of life, the tragic loss of life of friends and family has made us reevaluate the purpose of what we're here and doing and all these other kind of existential things that people are reevaluating what it is that brings them joy in the balance of life for those that have that luxury to do so. And where we have lost a lot of people, which were already at a deficiency of staff before going into this book of the pandemic, is a lot of people realize that our merit-based system of you have to earn your right to have better work environment is not a positive one, and it's not rewarding, and that there's other channels of opportunity that offer benefits and prices. All that being said, and I don't mean to go off onto the tangent with it, we don't have the resources in house, the staff and the teams that we need to fully exercise all the service levels that we are selling. And for that reason, those people that are still responsible for all these decisions that this data is usable for, they are being drawn into other roles and other responsibilities of time consumption. They can't spend the amount of time that they should be spending on the data that they need to gather to create the reports, to interpret the data, to make good business decisions. A lot of them are flying by the hip, making decisions based on quick assessments. And a lot of times it's a pattern. Well, that looks close enough to what I think it should be, so we're going to make that choice. When it really was not true indicative data that decision should have been based on. There should have been more in-depth review of it to realize that data wasn't in the direction they thought. And when the decisions go bad, they simply blame the fact of, what do you want me to do? I'm running a front desk and I'm running revenue management. I'm running marketing. I don't, that was a decision based on what we had as data. And it's easy to escape and duck underneath the bullets when it comes to that. So hopefully BI and RPA will help in those processes by creating the resources necessary so that people still diversified in their demands will have at least the data in their hands at the level that they need it to make good decisions. So, want to hit a little bit on news and a little bit of what's going on. We did talk about, I think, a couple of live shows ago about the metaverse decision. Obviously, Facebook's decision to not only change its name from Facebook to Meta, but also its full commitment into what was called the metaverse. We had a whole live show discussing that and the amazing aspects of what that is. Since all of that, of course, it has a chance for the industry in general and other industries to reflect on what they think that means for everyone. I think the fun dialogue of it is that most people see that at Facebook, we begin to exercise rules and regulations according to social media based on its influence on our society. Facebook goes off and changes the names and decides to create a whole new virtual world where it can control everything. So, in a strange way, that's probably true. But the metaverse, being a VR user myself, it's already morphed in the past year of my engagement with it to something different than what I first started with. And let me explain that a little bit. VR is virtual reality. It is when you put on a very large headset, and you've seen them probably in different pictures. Um, your vision is no longer in your real world; it is in a virtual world, one that's created by the computer in the headset, so you see and interact with it. You have little hand paddle, much like Game Boy game stuff that's in your hands that have buttons and triggers. And through those buttons and triggers, you can interact with the virtual world. That technology in itself is vastly improving very quickly. The physical sensation of things is called haptic. Haptic means that there's a physical sensation associated with a virtual engagement. Usually, this means vibration of feeling emotion. And if anybody saw the movie Ready Player One, you've had things like what's called haptic suits, which had basically magnets that create vibrations. That's like a speaker. Okay, so that if you're in the virtual world, if somebody bumps your chest, you feel it physically, vibration wise in the vest as somebody bumping your chest. They're improving on the gloves that they're creating. Pardon the splint on my finger here. Um, where you can feel the much like you're picking up a ball in virtual space, you feel it in your hands like you would in the real space. Very cool stuff. But what's also happened out of all of this is that there's been an AR growth to this. I've always been a proponent in hospitality that AR will have a stronger influence on our industry than VR. I now have a mixed bag about that because I've now, with the firsthand experience of VR, realized the power of engagement that VR can create. I don't take away from what AR can be and should be and probably will be and is already developing this way. And AR is augmented reality, meaning that there is enhancements to your view of the real world. You see the real world, but you may have a pair of glasses on, like Google did with Google Glasses or something. Or picture the old Terminator movies where looking around and seeing the people, and you seeing all those little dials and spinning in this virtual stuff that's telling them stuff and details. That was all made up stuff on the screen, but in reality, AR is a lot like that. There are many tools, even on your phone, that AR can be a function. AR can be like with Yelp, where you could hold it up. It was called a monocle, you can hold it up and it would show what you're looking, say you're looking down a street with different restaurants on it, and would have little balloons that you could tap the little talkie cloud, and it would show you the menu of that restaurant that you're looking at through the camera in a virtual AR view of like, okay, this is what they offer and this is their reviews and what have you. There's been platforms like that. A lot of usage right now is retail, Home Depot and others, where you're thinking about putting a couch in, and so the phones with lidar, iPhones with the lidar and all the other the lidar light emitting, it's like radar, can so accurately measure the distances of where the phone is compared to where everything else is, that the program takes the sofa and its dimensions and AR wise places it in the space you're looking at in your house. So you can literally see how that couch looks in your house while you look through the screen of your camera on your phone. That's AR. And it's getting more and more advanced. Well, what's happening now that I'm seeing the most of is that the VR headsets that I have, and we talk about VR separately in just a moment in the metaverse, the AR component is becoming the business engagement program of this. For anybody seen the movie Minority Report, movies often a reflection of how our society sees itself now and in future tense and past tense, what have you. But it was a landmark movie in the sense that it was a portrayal of what most people think our technology will become in the not too distant future, and that is an augmented reality engagement. What I mean by that is, remember Tom Cruise? He's there and he pulls up these virtual screens in front of him. They're not real monitors like we're used to, TV-esque monitors or flat panel monitors. And they are virtual monitors. And he's using his hands in his real space in open air, but he's moving and swiping and attaching and touching, and that exists right now. Virtual desktop in the Oculus Quest 2 that I have. I literally can put 6 screens virtually in front of me. Now I can make it virtual where I don't see anything in my real world, and I'm in a virtual office with these virtual screens in front of me. But I can also downplay that and make the real world come through. Okay, it's called view through. I can see my real world, but I can still keep these virtual screens in front of me. So I can swipe and touch and move and type and everything else. And it allows me to see my real keyboard and my real mouse, even if I'm in virtual mode, so that I can still physically interact with my computers rather than trying to virtually type, which is always hard because you don't have the tactile. You can't tell if you're hitting a key or not. Remember, so it allows the best of both worlds. There's Facebook has gone in that route because they're in the metaverse world now, full on, and that is they have workstation where it will show, it identifies my desk because there's little cameras on the headset, and it'll put these virtual screens in front of me, but then it'll see my real desk in front of me with my hands, so I can see my keyboard and mouse, so I can interact with now 6 screens, big screens. I can make it one huge screen, like I'm watching it on, a movie theater size screen in front of me if I want to. I can have 6 different screens, 8 screens, whatever, and I can have different things running, and I can change screens and do things with it, and I can work in that virtual environment. So this is now happening. We already know that the hardware that's coming on because of the adoption of using the hardware that exists now is going to get lighter, smaller, and faster. We know that the Oculus Quest 2 that I have, which is pretty bulky but innovative, because 2 years ago, actually a year and a half ago, you had to have the headset plugged in with a cable to a computer for it to even run. So not only did you have to pay for a relatively expensive $1,000 plus headset, but then you had to have a really good computer that had a great graphics card and processor and all the things that make it expensive running off to the side, running the headset. When you can trip over the cable, hit the cable, yank the cable out, break plugs, whatever. Well, then Oculus 2 came out, and it wasn't the first standalone headset, but it was the first affordable standalone headset, and affordable being $299, where you could put this headset on, and it has the audio on it already, and be in the virtual world, and programs ran on it compared to having to be plugged into it. Now, granted, up to this point, the programs that ran on the headset compared to those that ran on the computer were not as crisp and clear and as fast and as good as if you could plug into a very beefy computer to run it. That's changed. Just recently, it's changed. It just got announced that you can speed the hardware up. The reason why the new headsets aren't coming out until next year is because the current hardware of Oculus 2 was actually downsized in the sense of its efficiencies to increase battery life, but the processor can do better. So it can actually do better in the virtual world now, hardware wise. So it's improving all the time. Very quickly, it's assumed as soon as Apple starts stepping into this market, Microsoft takes its product and reduces it to a price point that's usable by more than just expensive companies, and they produce hardware or software in it that is more usable than large companies. Then you're going to get where we are going to be walking around with probably the Google glasses that everybody was making fun of way back when they first came out in their simplistic form. We will have augmented reality as a part of our daily lives. We already know with our watches and so forth, the ability to have this is now a phone. People 10 years ago would have laughed at us if we were talking to our phone. Now it's a normal. Putting earbuds in and talking, where you don't even carry your phone. There's been times I've caught where I didn't have my phone with me and it wasn't working because I had my phone on my watch. It was no big deal. And the health monitoring and everything else. So we see the technology catching up. The wearable technology is what it is. So back to this metaverse concert. So AR affects hospitality. How cool would it be that our staff someday can go over and see that the coffee temperature, because they can, is too low and that the coffee needs to be changed, or that they can look down the hallway and see which rooms, according to inventory, were not cleaned yet, or where the staff member might be, because we know their proximity based on their equipment, and we know that they're in that room without necessarily knowing, carts in the hallway, but we don't know which room they may be in. These are things that, as simplistic as they sound, can be helpful efficiencies. That's AR. AR from a travel perspective is going to be great. I can walk around just like you have Google Maps, telling you how to walk around and where the subway stations is. Now, if you're looking around, it can actually go over and say, "Oh, look, there's the subway entrance. Let me go down there." And the train, there's the schedule. The train that I need is going to be showing up in 4 minutes. Let me get down there. It does those kind of things. It has that kind of functionality to it. Um, that will help our travel world. Picture the fact that in AR, I mean, already now things like there's sunglasses, regular glasses that have cameras in them. Snapchat did theirs. There's one that was just done. I'm drawing a blank on this. That was just done in combination with Ray-Ban and so forth. And these cameras make it so that you're talking and you're like, "Oh, I want to catch this moment," and you just tell it, "Hey, record." And now you're recording from your POV point of view. Okay, what those cameras are seeing, and so you're not missing moments where you're that guy holding up a phone or girl holding up a phone going, "Okay, do it again," or "Okay, we're all having a party, yay," or a selfie. It does all of this itself. We already see the little drones that fly up and everything else. I don't see too far in the near future where we'll have our own personal drones, like, "Oh, let's get a picture of us," and just boom, off goes the drone, flies up, takes a picture, flies back down, connects back to whatever it was connected to. I see that happening. So this metaverse is the creation in VR, virtual reality, of a whole nother world. Now, that other world already has millions of people in it. It was let go on the recent Qualcomm stockholders call that 14 million units were sold this past year for the Oculus Quest 2. That's in addition to what was ever sold prior to, and all the other platforms like Rift and HR, all the rest of them. So there are millions of people in this environment already. This environment is an immersive environment, not just from a gaming point of view, but from a business point of view. Everything that is available for advertising in our real world is literally mimicable, if that's even a word, in the metaverse. Now, some newsworthy things that have been announced is Disney has announced that it is getting into the metaverse world. Um, Facebook, when they made the announcements of getting that they were going full into the metaverse world and they're changing the name to Meta and everything else like this, did not say that they were trying to be exclusive to this. They said they're going to be working actively in collaboration with many other entities. Well, apparently that's true because Disney has not said they're against Facebook. They're actually working in collaboration with Facebook to make their own metaverse. What does the metaverse mean? It's a self-made world that you virtual reality can be in. Um, they said in very short order, you're going to be able to walk around with Buzz Lightyear and Elsa from Frozen. It's amazing in the virtual world, the uh, engagement that you feel. Like there's a game I play, World War One planes, where you're flying a Sopwith Camel, and you can get dizzy and stuff. And there's advanced levels where it's like, don't do this. You can ride any roller coaster in the world you want. You can go to any place that Google Maps is in and stand there. They've mapped out amazing locations in the world that you can be there. You can go on the International Space Station. Time Magazine Smithsonian put a 3D 360 camera up for 2 years recording life on the space station, and you can be there. You can feel what it's like to be on the station, look through the blister down on Earth. You can go on a spacewalk with an astronaut. And they're not made up vision. This is real camera work being done at locations that you feel completely there. You can go to the Sistine Chapel. You can go to Notre Dame before and after the fire. It's amazing stuff. So, because of that, the really cool announcement is the expansion of the ability to market within this. Now, first, we go head slam and say, oh, geez, there it goes. It's going to get all screwed up. The cool part of this is that when you're playing games or you're in this world, you have what's called an avatar, and that avatar is as customizable as the platforms that you're using it for allow. Me putting a beard on or a ponytail, round face, square face, oval face, whatever. You try to make it symbolic to what is you consider to be relative features of yourself. Most of these avatars do not have anything below the waist in most cases because it's just too difficult because your legs don't move. A lot of times you're just standing still and using your joystick to move around. So leg motion isn't a function of it. So it's easier just to have a half body up. You get used to it. But that's going to change. It's going to change relatively soon with the new hardware that's coming out, actually. And so with this, you can engage in other worlds. It has already been said that VR movies are already in production, meaning where you watch a movie on a screen, you're now first person right next to the characters and the actors in the movie. Picture Avatar, and you're in the movie. You're around with the characters, moving with the characters, looking wherever you want to look during the course of the movie. Incredible to think that you would be so engaged. There are some amazing games that people have enjoyed on their computers for many years. Resident Evil, Call of Duty, or Medal of Honor, and so forth. That are now first-person experiences. You're running around in these environments. Picture being in the Blair Witch Project. For those that remember that movie, it's like, "Ooh, okay, you're standing in the woods, kind of stuff. These are the things that are existing and will be existing better as time goes on with the hardware improvements and the adoption by more and more places. The cool part is, I can say firsthand, remember Coco the movie? Well, Disney did a little short where you're on stage with Coco singing the song, and you're there. You have to walk out. The characters are engaging with you. It's not anything you can control. It's not a game you control. You're just as a person in it. But it was a taste of what it's going to be like to have these immersive movies. Why does this all have to do with hospitality? Because in all honesty, it does two things for us. One, it allows people to experience what we have to offer by creating our own 360 videos, which there's a whole other platforms, YouTube VR, Oculus Quest platform, and more that you can put these videos on. And so people can see what it's like to stand on your veranda overlooking the ocean at the most perfect sunrise or sunset that you have, and feel that. No, they can't smell it. No, they can't feel the wind, but they can sense what it'd be like to be there. And it creates the desire to want to be there in real life. This isn't an escapism. This is an augmentation, an enhancement of what the value proposition of all this could be. So for that, um, the idea that you can market within this is powerful, because obviously with Facebook's control over their metaverse, all that tracking data that they have will be applicable to people in their metaverse. So if I know that they are looking at sunset views from the Acropolis in Athens, and I know that they are located in Des Moines, Iowa, and I have a resort or hotel or whatever, BB, Airbnb or anything in Athens, I know that maybe potentially I could put advertisement in that space that is on a billboard on a street that they are looking at street view from Athens. That is me. Now, I don't actually have the ad on the real billboard in the real Athens, but in the virtual Athens that they're experiencing, I could be on there. I could have representation of me. So all those things, where you're on a billboard somewhere, be like, "Wow, you like, billboards are so passe." No, in the virtual world, that's mean maybe something that's there. Maybe it's the virtual cab they get in has my advertisement, and maybe it's the virtual magazine they're looking at that has advertisement in it. The power of being in that metaverse, that virtual reality, and having advertisement space. We can already probably assume the marketers are going to abuse the heck out of this. But we also know that in a strange way, we like the personalization. I wouldn't say in a strange way, in a very real way. We like the personalization that this type of content provides. If I'm going to see these things and then I get displayed in those things information that would be helpful for me to know that they are there and that I should take advantage of them, or an opportunity for them, or what have you, why not? Why not have that ability? Why not have somebody virtually arrive at your hotel, you greet them, and they're like as if they're standing in your lobby talking to you. And you're like, let me show you the rooms. And all of a sudden, whoosh, you're in the king bedroom suite, or whoosh, I'm in the meeting room suite. And you're doing these tours in this view in VR. Or if somebody wants to talk to you directly, I do this with some of my clients, two of my clients, where I have a virtual meeting with them. We sit in a virtual room with a virtual fireplace, virtual mountain view, and they're on a couch across from me and I'm on this couch and we're talking business. And if I want to show them my computer screen, I tap a button and my computer screen shows up floating in the air, and I can show them what I'm talking about, or a whiteboard I can draw on. The power of this is immense. It's amazing. Um, the fact that it can be of value to us to augment our ability to communicate what we have and what we can offer to people without them having to go through the, well, what do you mean? Let me send you a picture, or go to my website to see what I have, or let me talk on Zoom to discuss details, where I can create a higher engagement level by this metaverse program. That makes it very powerful, and that's the real value to this. So, um, with all of this, the Disney metaverse discussion, the metaverse as to what it means for marketing, the links will be in our show notes this week, obviously. Also, too, the tools I mentioned, the BIs and the RPAs, and some of the reporting tools, all the site links are available on the show notes. For show notes, you can, our new archive for our shows are obviously hospitalitychannel.tv. That's our online 24/7 TV channel. That's a website TV channel. It's a linear channel. It plays the new shows plus a recording of a replay of older shows and sequences and so forth. We have, we're in our 8th year of doing this. So we have many, many hours of shows, plus also all of our podcasts. We've been doing it for 17 years. So there's many, many progressive. We do them all weekly. So we have lots of different content that you can look at. We're getting better at being able to segment it out. Like, if there's a particular co-host that you liked, we have all those episodes together. If there's particular content you like, we have all the episodes together. We're breaking all that down in time. But for all of those that do watch us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and all the different channels within all of those, and also we're on Twitch on your PlayStation and Xbox. We hit those spaces as well. The most important one is our TV channel, a legitimate TV channel. You can get this on Roku, Apple TV, Google Play, and Amazon Prime on their Fire Sticks and what have you, plus on Android iOS and Apple iOS, where we're an app as well. Look for Hospitality Channel. you can watch our show always on that TV channel for free. It's as simple as adding a channel to your programming. So you go into Roku, add channel, look for Hospitality Channel, see it there, clicking on there. The live show will always play on time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, Fridays, on that channel, and it will be available for replay afterwards for up to the week until the next show comes up. And then there's a pay for, just like Netflix, for $4.99, where there's additional content beyond that for just hospitality people. We're not trying to be a travel channel or food channel or anything like this. We're talking about things related to hospitality, softwares and services, stories, chefs, food and beverage, how hotels are run, how do you do banquet services, on and on and on. We're adding and putting together these massive amounts of content for that. We would appreciate if you want to subscribe to that, because that to us is the direction that this will be going. Obviously, the show will be on for that, for the live shows I mentioned this. Our podcast today is actually in vein with what we discussed today, and that is we're talking about a really cool AR based tool that you can use, and it's really cool. And I'm really going to be excited about looking at it on a podcast day. So look for podcast for show 328. It'll be talking about an AR ad tool that just came out with geo-targeting, triggering, and cool stuff that if you're geek out like me, you're like, really, you can do that? It walks in a certain area and it'll pop something on, or vice versa, and it's really cool. So with that in mind, we are at our hour, and the topic again was BI and RPA, how machines run machines for you, and how that happens. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation. Please give me your feedback and send me an email always to lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. I answer each and all emails related to the live show as well as the podcast. If there's something that you would like to have as a topic and or join us, you notice that we have a chat room and so forth on the program guide. Our shows links are always consistently the same. It's bit.ly/HDM show 329 will be next week. The one after that will be 330, on and on. So each Friday, the numbers just go. So the link stays the same. The numbers just change according to the show number. And you'll be able to always register and join us. And if you want to join actually by turning on your camera, we're opening that back up again for starting in December for people to come join us on the chat as well. But I appreciate all of your comments for that. And for everyone that joined me on all the platforms that we simulcast on, thank you so very much for doing that as well. And also the TV channel and Twitch. I appreciate that very much for everyone being on there. So with that in mind, my name is Lauren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time and look forward to talking to you all next week.
It happens if you work for it, but we're here to mentor you along the way. And just the sad part about it is that a lot of front desk people or whatever, I think you were talking about front desk before, standing up for 8 hours and being pleasant every day, they're not getting that career path. They're not getting that development. How are they meant to grow when they're in a silo?
Right. And you're right. We base